Hi, Paul. It's great to see you.
Hello, Yuri. Very good to see you.
Perfect. Thanks for coming today. So, before we will start, would you mind to introduce yourself?
It's a great pleasure. My name's Paul Hansen, and I'm one of the founders of 1000 Minds, which is software for making decisions when there's multiple criteria to consider, and people want to work out the weights in a scientifically valid way so that they can rank things. And I should also say, on the other side of that, very similar application, but it's a different field, is we're used a lot, 1000 minds is used a lot for discovering, what do people want in products? What are the trade-offs they're willing to make, say, if you're thinking about smartphones, between the quality of the camera versus the processing speed, the price you're willing to pay, and that's known as conjoint analysis or discrete choice experiments. So we do both. So that's what I do in 1000 minds. But my background also, and maybe we'll talk some more about that later on, I'm also a professor of economics, or I was until recently. Now I'm an emeritus professor of economics at the University of Otago, here in New Zealand, by the way, a long way from where you are.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
all the way from Europe. Um,
yeah,
Being a professor of economics for most of your life, right? So far.
yes, yes. Well, for almost 40 years, in fact. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have been um, in academia for a very long time, but I know that 1,000 minds exist for over a decade, maybe.
About 25 years now,
Oh,
Yuri. So that's how long it's been going. Yeah. Time flies when you're having fun, doesn't it? Yeah.
yeah. So 1000 minds is based on algorithm you invented that's called PAPRIKA. We will speak about that later. I
Hmm.
guess started as part of your research as an economist in the university. So yeah, and before we will jump into your field in economics, I would like to speak with you about education. I suppose you have spent a lot of time with students. How do you see the future of learning and teaching at this moment?
Oh, that's such a great question. I mean, my personal feeling is that it's really on the cusp of a great change, and a lot of that's being driven, of course, by artificial intelligence, and of course the internet, and um, just the ability to, for 1,000 years, someone like me got paid a large salary to stand up in front of students and talk to them for about an hour at a time. Um, and that worked very efficiently because we relied on books, and there weren't that many of them around until the last 100 years or so. Students would turn up, the professor would talk, the students would take notes. But of course, technology has superseded that. So I
Yeah.
can see with the next few years, I'm sure you can too, artificial intelligent uh, personal assistants taking you through learning anything that you want to learn in any language that you want. Why would it have to be English?
Yeah.
Repeating it, you know, um, infinitely patient,
Yeah.
never getting angry with you, remembering your name, being funny with you, giving you tests as it needed. I
Yes.
just think, and I think, of course, I'm an economist. I would say this, but you know, what drives changes in society are cost differences, and the fact that you could have a very high quality education in the fashion that I'm describing at a fraction of a cost of paying high tuition to go to a very good university. Um, Now, I'm not for a moment saying that that's all education is. Education is far more than just learning things. It's about learning to socialize with people, work in groups, all those things that you and I have
Yes.
done throughout our training as students and also as teachers. But I think the content form of education is going to change a lot because of the AI revolution that's taking
Yeah.
place. I mean, what do you think? Do you agree with that, or am I? I mean,
Yeah.
it seems kind of obvious to me.
I think AI in form of tutoring might get the best of every student, every child.
Yep.
I think I what might actually happen is like when I was studying the university,
Hmm.
few things that were like optional for us. We had to choose from three subjects. But now when you have internet,
Mm.
digitized, you can learn online.
Yep.
You could potentially decide that you want to create, you want to study Persian history, or
Mm.
let's say an ancient economies.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there is no degree for that, but there is so many contents that are available now. AI could potentially read all the books for you, create a
Yep.
curriculum, and then tell you exactly in what ordering to read the books,
Yep.
ask questions. So what we might potentially see in the future is that people will be creating their own degrees,
Mm.
and you don't have to fly to Iran to learn
No.
about like
And
ancient Persian.
choice destinations at the moment, Yuri. But yeah, yeah,
Yes, yes, exactly. So I think this might be another
yeah.
aspect.
And I
Uh,
agree. But a big thing I think that we often overlook, and this is what I've really thought about in the 40 years almost that I was both a student and then a teacher and finally a professor. Um, a big part of what occurs or it used to occur is socialization, learning to interact with people, to have a conversation like we are now, to be able to work in a group and resolve disagreements and communicate and present. And of course, those things can be taught online. But a lot of those things are real human interactions.
yeah,
And what I really noticed towards the end of my academic career, just in the last few years, since COVID, a lot of students weren't coming to class at all. So they were getting the content online and passing their exams, which was awesome, but they weren't learning those other human skills. And so there's a lot of mental unhappiness and anxiety and just a lack of sociability. So
yes,
I think as a society, we have to recognize that education is more than just content. It's
yeah.
also human interaction, which is very important, as think about your own organization for working with people.
You're absolutely right. Like, even if it was possible to get the whole degree just online, never meet others, you
Yep.
would lose a lot, because it's not just the knowledge, it's also um, relationships, helping others, learning with others, and
Yep.
teaching others. When I was studying, many times I was teaching others something I knew well, and others were teaching me things they knew better, because like I was from grammar school. They studied electric engineering as a high school, so actually they were much better at electronics than me when I studied computer science. And so so this is a very much underappreciated aspect of university.
It's not just content, and don't forget as well. I mean, content is going to be less and less important because the AI knows the content.
Yeah,
It's almost human beings are going to be substituted or replaced in that respect. But on the other hand, the human interaction,
yeah.
which is what conversation is an example of, um,
Now,
is still very important. Obviously.
yeah. Now there have been universities, liberal colleges that often have thousands of subjects, so you
Yep.
was always allowed to make your own degree if you
Yep.
wanted. Um, how would it work if you wanted to create a liberal college but consume half of the credits, or let's say get half of the credits from another liberal university? Do you think it's possible to like utilize partially online education, partially still have a working group in your
There's,
university?
I think there's amazing business opportunities. Actually, I mean, imagine traveling around the world and visiting Spain or Gibraltar, visiting New Zealand, visiting Thailand, America, Europe,
Yes,
learning about different cultures, interacting with people from different parts of the world, and at the same time being taught things, you
yes,
know, and doing a lot of it through the internet, even as we are today talking. I
yeah,
mean, it seems to me that these opportunities are just phenomenally huge. And those were not opportunities that I had as a student. I was a student in the 1980s. I'm a lot older than you. We literally had to turn up. There was no recordings of lectures. We took notes or we missed everything.
Yeah.
Of course, it's changed a lot in that 40 years. A lot of it for the better, but I also think a lot of it for the worse, because, as I said before, there's very little incentive for students to turn up, which is, again, as a teacher, I found very, very almost sad, actually. I mean, I turned up as a teacher because I wanted to see my students.
Yeah. So
But,
I studying
yeah,
2 decades ago, and actually not all of my lessons were streamed online. And
right.
so
Yeah,
still I had to come to the lessons, and of course, so I switched from computer science to economics, um, and in computer science we have labs. Like you can't do laser measuring
yeah,
from or so you have to come to the school anyway. But yes, at the same time, what might happen is uh, that AI tutoring will level the playing field up.
yeah,
So AI is much better in English than in any other language because of the content of the text. So as long as you know English, potentially you can study any university, and what might happen, you might get as good education as
mhm,
in top universities in the world.
yeah.
So
But think what this means for the democratization of education. You
yes,
know, it potentially is open to everyone, again, subject to the English thing that you're talking about, but that'll change too. There'll be lots of courses in other languages as well,
yes,
especially you can translate between them. But, in the past, it was only really privileged people who could go to the best universities. In fact, any universities, if you think about it in relative terms, for most of the world. But now education, hopefully, with technology, will be available to everyone, and also throughout our lives. I'm 58, and I am always learning. Who wouldn't be with what's available on the internet? I'm sure you are too.
yes, 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 and it's always getting better. So
Yeah,
uh, if you if your kids were just about to go to the university, how would you prepare them for the future? Would you like what would you give them as
yeah.
advice? What to study, how to
Well,
study, how to
that's
approach?
such, Yuri, that's such an important question. I mean, and I've been really wondering about this. I don't have children, but I have lots of friends who do. And yeah, I mean, I don't think we can give them advice about what courses to do because, would you be an economist? Well, a lot of that stuff, of course, is done by AI. A programmer, a lawyer. I was
Yeah.
watching Jeffrey Hinton the other day, yesterday, in fact, on YouTube, and his advice was that people study to become plumbers. Because, with the hand act, because the computers haven't, and robotics aren't quite able to do the work of plumbers yet. But so
Yeah.
I don't think it's about picking subjects. It's about picking um, you know characteristics of people: being curious, being excited, being interested in learning stuff, and talking and interacting with other people. I think those are going to be the skills. I mean, they've always been the skills, but I think increasingly, as AI can do, the content stuff, the human interaction, whether it's physical or just socializing with people, but in a work situation,
Yeah.
is going to be cool. So if I had children, I'd be saying, work on your soft skills, work on being able to relate to people, work on your imagination, your creativity, your
Yes.
curiosity for the world. You
Yes.
know,
Yes.
be broad.
Yes. Yes. How I am thinking about this is um, AI is going to be great or is already great at quite
Yep,
like low depth general knowledge, and
yep,
then go into big depth in fields where it has a lot of learning materials. So fields that are studied for a very long time, and there
yep,
are thousands and tens of thousands of books. So what I
yep,
would suggest is actually do not be either generalist nor expert in one field which is extremely well described, but something I call it P-shaped. So T-shaped is like a generalist, I know one thing well, but like have some general knowledge, but get good understanding of two different disciplines, which for
Yes.
example, in my case would be tech and economics. For
Mm-hmm.
somebody else, it might be history and economics. As I said, like being a historian of Persian economic, ancient Persian economics. When you combine two fields, suddenly there are no thousands of books that
Mm-hmm.
describe this, and AI does not have advantage. Of course, not each combination can be a viable career for everyone. Like tech and economics can be viable career for millions, while
Mm-hmm.
Persian economics might be viable academical career for up to 10 people in the world. Um,
Yeah.
but this is what I would probably suggest my kids to do, really, like to find their own combination and be able to learn fast. Because
Yeah.
even this combination, if it grows too much, it might be worth for the AI companies to invest more time to training and enriching the data sets in those models to include those cross sections. So actually, like even tech and economics, most likely one day will be also like very very well covered by
Mm-hmm.
capability of AI. Even
Yeah.
now, yeah.
Now, I mean, it's changing so fast, isn't it? Too. That's the other thing. I personally find it so exciting.
Yes,
Um, but I feel glad that in my professional career, I'm sort of at the end of it. Well, I'm not really, but I would be nervous if I was 18.
yes, yeah,
Very, very nervous, in fact.
yes. But at the same, so I think AI will raise global GDP immensely.
Yeah.
It will create a gap which will be difficult to cross for, let's say, junior level people. When you are senior level lawyer, accountant, consultant, whatever, AI is perfect tool for you. But to go from junior to senior, you need a company that will invest to you. Why would a
Mm.
company pay a living human if they can
Yeah.
pay AI 1/10 or even less and
Yeah.
get the AI working 24/7?
That's
So
right. And no holiday pay, no sickness.
no, nothing.
And continually learning, getting better and better every week.
Yes, yes. So this is I guess the biggest risk for
Yeah.
young. As I say, like if you focus on two fields, create your own niche, you might be perfectly fine. Which means also, does it mean that like general university curricula, where thousands of students are getting exactly the same education, is this concept dead?
In my opinion, it is.
Yeah.
Yes. In my opinion. And as I said at the start, I mean, it has lasted so long because that was the only technology we had. I mean, when I first started teaching, I was literally half a chapter ahead of my students. Like, as a young assistant lecturer, I was reading the book and then going out 3 times a week in front of these classes of 1,000 students in two groups of 500 and regurgitating what I had read 2 days before and made slides for and managing to communicate. You know, how far that has changed just in that short time,
Yes. Yes.
you
Yes.
know. But it had been like that for 1,000 years since, the European universities or the Chinese or Confucian universities, again, often with the religious tradition, where some wise guru who had read the book or had written the book probably,
Yeah.
went out and communicated it. But now, of course, with internet technology and artificial intelligence,
Yeah.
it's available to everyone and at tremendous speed and scalability. It's
Yeah.
obvious, isn't it?
Yes. If you went many centuries back, actually, no matter what you studied, you got some
Yep.
class. So you got some Latin, Greek, religion, some science, rhetoric, ethics. So everybody got the same core. And
Yep.
I And nowadays, many people promote that we should go back to teaching classics, but I think it is not for job reasons. Like, it might be useful because classics are a summary of the best thoughts of,
Mm-hmm.
let's say, of humans in history. So it makes you a better human. But if we speak about the university as a preparation for your career, especially if people are expected to create small niches and highly
Yep.
specialize,
Yeah.
and be able to
And
change careers on the.
why do it all over 3 years? Why not do, a few weeks or even a few hours here as you need it, use
Yeah,
it, and then learn as you go, sort of thing. Obviously, I mean,
yeah,
these opportunities, the flexibility
yeah.
is just phenomenal, I think.
This is another thing that I guess is going to change. Instead of like studying for 3, 5 years, depends if you want your masters, and then
Yep.
never studying again in your life, what we might see is we will study for a year, start doing something,
Yep.
and after 2, 3 years, stop for 1 year. Like, of course, the world needs significantly higher prosperity, so you can afford
Yep.
working and stop working, and for 1 year learn and like change the direction a little bit based on where you see that you are useful, helping people, and are paid well,
Mm.
and study for a year and do this all your life. So you are self-directing your career, getting better all your life,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
try.
You're evolving, Yuri. You're evolving.
Yes, exactly. So this is another concept, like learning, getting a degree, and then doing exactly the same job, or maybe getting higher on one given career ladder. This is another thing that's that for if AI is going to do the things to the world, I believe it will.
Mm.
You will have to evolve faster. You have to learn faster, but you will be more prosperous than ever
Yeah.
because you will be more productive, and you will be surrounded
Right.
by people who are more
So
productive.
you keep up. Those of us who just lie back and take it, it's going to be horrible. But you've got to keep current, keep interested, keep curious,
Yes,
like you. And I think like I am. I'm very curious. I'm more curious now at 58 than I was at 18.
yes, yes, exactly. This is something. Um, uh, One thing I always say, that a good school is not a school that teaches you the most facts, but the school that when you finish the school, every single absolvent of the school is A, is great at learning, and B, loves learning,
Yes.
because you will have to learn all your life. It has been through before AI. Like, the world
Mhm.
has been going to this direction already.
Yep.
Uh, we have already seen like people creating their own niches. It was powered by internet. Everybody learning English, so
Hmm.
you can create a small niche, become a creator, or yeah, make a small product or service, and instead of targeting a small market of your own town, suddenly you are speaking to billions of people online,
Yep.
and a few hundred or few thousands of people all across the world are willing to pay you for your particular skill, which,
Hmm.
playing on spoons and singing at the same time. uh,
Yeah.
you might create your own niche career, and so this was in some way already happening.
Yeah.
It's the AI will force people to get there. Now
Yeah.
let me ask. So what was your specialization in economics, or what
So
is?
I specialized in health economics. I was very interested in how do we make decisions to support a health system. So where I come from, New Zealand, we have a public health system, a health system run by the government. And so that, the government collects taxes and then it makes decisions about which treatments, which drugs, which medical procedures it wants to fund. And
Yes,
it also make decisions about which patients will receive those health treatments. So I was very interested after I finished my PhD. How do we make those really, really hard decisions? And they're matters of life and death. Like who gets an operation for a serious, like a heart problem or cancer or some serious illness? Who gets that treatment and who doesn't get that treatment is a matter of life and death for those people, and also making the most of the resources that the country has. So that was my interest, and that's what led to 1000minds. Because in 1998, a long time ago now, New Zealand was the first country in the world that switched to a system within the hospitals where people got assessed on criteria, for a hip replacement, for a heart valve operation,
Yeah.
for an infertility treatment, for what are called elective or non-urgent treatments, like not a car accident or
Yes.
something like that, but something where there was a waiting list. People had to wait, and so the government had to manage the waiting list and decide the order in which patients got treated.
Yes.
So the system was introduced with a set of criteria, maybe 5 or 6 criteria, to decide who would get a particular treatment across all the hospitals in the country. We're a small country too, by the way, 5 million people.
Yeah.
The really hard bit was, well, okay, we've got these criteria, but what's their relative importance? And so these systems were introduced where you went in as a patient, you got scored on the different criteria, you got weights added to them, and usually you got a score out of 100. That score out of 100 determined whereabouts on the waiting list you came. If you're very high, you'd get your treatment perhaps in a month's time. If you're very low, you might not get your treatment at all.
Okay.
So the issue was, well, how do we create weights that are valid and reliable, that reflect the relative importance of the criteria that are being used? And there'll be medical criteria. And that's where 1000minds, the software that I'm a co-inventor of with and a team of people, particularly Franz Ombler and Julian Moller, but others as well, we invented a system starting from about 2001 to take groups of medical experts through a process, and I can demonstrate the process later on if you'd like to. They get asked some very simple questions, and their answers to these very simple questions reveal the weights or the relative importance on the criteria. And by doing that, the health system now, and it's been used in New Zealand ever since then, and in other countries as well, the health system, has explicit criteria and it has weights that reflect the relative importance in a valid and reliable manner, determined by the experts in the field.
Yeah.
And that way patients get ranked in a fair and appropriate manner. And so it was, to me, it was a very important thing. Like as an economist in my training, excuse me, I was very interested in, how do we make really tough decisions? I mean, those are really hard decisions, and they're not decisions I can make. I'm not a medical expert, but the job of an economist, in my opinion, is to try and help people make really important decisions. I mean, that's, making decisions is what life is all about. And so that's where 1000minds came from. And working with Franz Ombler, that's who I began with back in 2001.
And if I understand correctly, you did, it was more like a generic model. So the criteria, if some underlying criteria changes, you can update the model. So for example, if you have very expensive treatment for some type of cancer, and suddenly if there is a cheap treatment for the same type of cancer, those patients would get higher score because you can, say, buy them more years of life.
Yep. And so Jiri, what we discovered was, like if you can solve that problem, that's a difficult application, but actually the decision about, the order in which patients are treated for particular specialities, heart surgery, hip replacement surgery, et cetera, that's really the same problem that everyone faces when it involves making decisions with some sort of prioritization or ranking involved. And so that's where 1000minds grew out of. We'd solved it in the medical field, but of
Yeah.
course it's so applicable to all decisions. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a general area, and we didn't know this. Like, that's the funny thing. I started out as an interested economist, but I didn't realize what we'd stumbled on is this whole area known as multi-criteria decision analysis. And it's a huge area that covers every field in the world, not far beyond medicine, but
Yes.
even IT and defense and day-to-day decision making involves prioritizing things. I mean, how else would we make decisions? We've got to use criteria. We worry about the weights, and so there's a discipline. I now know this now, but I didn't know it then, called multi-criteria decision analysis, and that's what 1000minds, our software, and the method we invented called PAPRIKA is part of. And it turns out there's a huge industry that does that, of course,
Yes.
because human beings have been trying to do this ever since we walked out of the cave and said, what do we do next?
Yes.
What do we hunt? Who are our friends? Who are our enemies? Should we go this way or go that way?
Yes.
Those are decisions. And so it's very fundamental to human beings making decisions. And so that's why, I get such joy. Everything I do is devoted to helping people make really important decisions.
Would you mind to explain how PAPRIKA works?
Yeah, sure. Can I show you? Would it be okay if I show you some slides? Because I think your audience might be quite interested in. I'll talk about PAPRIKA, but that's really, that's specific to 1000minds, and I know that's what we're talking about. But I think it'd be a benefit just to introduce people, if they're not familiar with it, to this whole area of multi-criteria decision analysis, because it's a fascinating area and it's so broad, and I'm sure everyone in the audience will find, an application for this in their field of expertise. Yeah, well, I thought it'd be interesting if I showed you very quickly just a general overview of what multi-criteria decision analysis is, because as I said before, it's such a generic and general area of expertise that has like thousands and thousands of applications in lots of different areas. I talked before, I got into it because of my interest in health economics, but since then, I've used these tools in many, many other different areas. And so here's my slide. If you can see that here, I'll go through some slides really, really fast. Try not to make this like a professor boring everyone, but you can see it's in the name. So what is multi-criteria decision analysis? Well, it's about choosing or prioritizing or ranking some alternatives, and those alternatives could be individuals. And how do you do it? You do it by considering their performance on multiple criteria or objectives, and you do them together. So as the name, it's decision analysis involving multiple criteria, hence multi-criteria decision analysis. I came to it from the field of economics. I'm an economist, but it's really at the intersection of economics, but also psychology, and also operations research and computer science, because it's so computer and mathematical driven nowadays. But that's personally why I find it interesting. I love economics, of course I do, but I love the fact that it's about how human beings think, the psychology side of things, and of course implementing things with computer science, which I have no expertise in, but luckily my colleagues in 1000minds are really expert at that area in particular. So just to sort of give you an overview, most decision problems that we face involve these four components. We've got some decision makers. It could be a person, where to go on holiday next. It could be a country. What should we do about a security threat? It could be the world. What should we do about climate change? So decision makers and stakeholders, obviously, and it's their preferences that we're going to try and follow to make the decision. Second part, obviously, we've got some alternatives to choose between. If we didn't have alternatives that we're going to prioritize or rank, we wouldn't have a decision to make. How are we going to choose between them? We're going to use some criteria, obviously. But the hard thing, the thing that's often ignored, and that's where really my interest arose, what's the weights or the relative importance on those criteria, such that we can sort of use a weighted average system, and I'll demonstrate that later on, to arrive at scores on the alternatives in order to rank all of them from first down to last. So coming up with the weights seems like a thing that people often ignore, and it has been, but actually it's a very important part of the problem. But those 4 parts there are common to all multi-criteria decision analysis applications, and there are just so many different ones across a huge number of fields. And these are examples of fields that we, 1000 Minds, have been used in the last 20 years, but there's lots of others. So, common to all these examples, I won't read them out, but they've all got some alternatives. We're choosing between them or ranking them. We're doing it using some criteria. We have to worry about the relative importance of the criteria, in other words, the weights. And of course, we're involving decision makers, could be individuals, but oftentimes it's groups, it could be whole organizations and other stakeholders. So, all of these things are some sort of ranking or prioritization, lots of applications in business, but lots of other areas as well. And another screen here, it's a big part of market research, as I said before. It's called conjoint analysis in that area. Big thing in software development. Some of the people who are interested in your series, Jiri, will be interested in that. But prioritizing product backlogs, etc. Homeland security. Who are terrorism threats or security threats, and how do we choose them, given we've got limited resources? So, all of those applications have these 4 components, and therefore they are amenable to multi-criteria decision analysis. Why is this discipline used so widely? Well, because most of us, rather than being super rational and super informed and super intelligent like Mr. Spock off Star Trek or Sheldon Cooper off Big Bang Theory. I realized I was getting old, Jiri, when I used to just show the image on the left, and young people wouldn't recognize that character. But, most of us are not like those 2 individuals. Most of us are more like Homer Simpson. We're not getting all of the information. We're not processing it perhaps efficiently. And sometimes we just, overwhelmed by our emotions, or we just make sort of almost dumbass decisions. It's lovely being a human being, but sometimes we don't process and make decisions as well as we might. And so people have studied this for years and years and years. And here are just 10 examples. I'm not going to go through them all, but of the sort of decision-making mistakes that we make as individuals, even in our personal lives, but certainly that are made in organizations all the time. I have worked in a university most of my life, as we've discussed. Number 7 here, when I was head of department, I'd come out of meetings with other heads of department, and lots of professors and very clever people would turn up. We would make a decision as a group, and oftentimes I would hear people, as we walked out of the room going, how on earth did we make that decision? The smartest people were in the room, but there was a group failure taking place. There was group think taking place. No one wanted to speak the truth. You can imagine all those sorts of things. Everyone getting on with everyone, perhaps the loudest voice carrying the day. But all of these examples, all 10 of them, according to organizational theorists and psychologists, are very common. Again, anyone can look at this list in their own time, but I'm sure if you look down that list, you'll recognize some that you've experienced personally, but also perhaps occasionally happen within your organizations as well. And that's, this is
I could
standard
come
stuff.
a few more, like sunk cost fallacy and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're right, that's a great example, sunk cost. If we take a big picture, what is our human civilization and the history of us as a species? It's really a chronicle of both good and bad decisions that we've made as human beings. And here are just quotes. I love these quotes from very famous people. Again, I won't read them out, but right back to Pythagoras the Greek.
Yes.
Choices are the hinges of destiny. Oh my goodness, what a statement!
Yes.
Right through to Martin Luther King, putting it much more elegantly, but he's trying to, obviously he's advocating for all human beings, irrespective of black, white, or any color or race, should be free to make choices for their own destiny, to make their own decisions, obviously. The antithesis of this, but I like it because she's such a beautiful woman and an interesting person as well. Ever notice that what the hell is always the right decision? That's the opposite of multi-criteria decision making. That's,
Yeah.
gut, not paying attention, but it's a lovely quote nonetheless. But,
Yes.
these other, and Napoleon Bonaparte, Albert Camus, a very, very famous novelist and author, Nobel
Yeah.
Prize winner, I believe.
I think the Marilyn Monroe, nowadays they call it YOLO. You only live once. So when you raise a decision, you just say only live once and go with it. Yeah.
But, think of your own life. It's a series of decisions that's got you to where you are. And I hope most of them have been good, but occasionally we make poor decisions. That's natural. And here are some, it's the bad ones that we remember through history because they really stand out as like, oh my goodness. And I just, I just put this together from when I was giving a public talk recently. But, imagine being the person who decided to let the Trojan horse into Troy.
Yeah.
But never invade Russia, especially with winter coming on.
Yes. Everybody failed so far. This was
Everyone failed.
idea.
Yeah. It's almost inevitable, right? At my own country, New Zealand, not everyone on this pod will know this, but, someone introduced rabbits and possums from other countries into New Zealand, and they devastated the landscape and the animals that existed there. It was the worst decision imaginable. Has created problems ever since. Anyway, enough about that. Thalidomide was used for treating morning sickness in the 50s and 60s. It led to really, really, bad birth defects and the poor babies who were born with it. No one was to know. It was an accident, of course, but there was decision making involved. The Beatles, believe it or not, were turned down by Decca Records just when they were starting out. And, imagine if they'd signed them up rather than EMI. And this one here's my personal favorite. I didn't know this, but apparently J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter manuscript was rejected 8 times. And someone actually said to me it was more than 8 times when they saw this slide the other day before it was finally accepted. Imagine having that on your curriculum vitae, having rejected Harry Potter in your career. So, life is full of mistakes. The process overall, I won't go through it all, but where 1000 mind slots in is we basically help decision makers build a model that fits into the overall process that they'd use for decision making. And it's an iterative process. Even building the model often helps people go back and think, we didn't really understand the problem in the first place. We perhaps didn't even understand the problem or issue that we're trying to do. And we're moving, down the chain here, but we're going back and refining what we do. And the end result, after we've used the model to challenge our thinking, you can see all the different other components. We're not doing it just for fun. We're doing it because we're trying to develop an action plan. This is very action orientated. So that's, 1000 minds, I'll demonstrate that if we've got time, helps with this building model phase, which is very important for the overall process of multi-criteria decision analysis. Some obvious advantages of doing it the way I'm going to show you. It's really systematic and consistent. You can make it super explicit and transparent. Everything's recorded and discoverable. Massively scalable. Whether you've got 2 alternatives or 1,000 alternatives, there's not much extra effort involved. Because it's so transparent, it's often defensible. You can audit it to see why the decision was made. And if you're using the right information, you can make it evidence-based rather than just sort of gut feel or any of those other things. In 1000 minds, sorry, this is a slight promotional thing, but we often talk about the 4 E's that we try to help people with, excellence, efficiency, being ethical in the decision-making, and engagement, involving getting lots of people involved. Again, I don't have to read that out, but this is sort of a process that's scalable and transparent and inclusive. Is going to be better than one that's, confined and just 1 or 2 people know what's going on and they're just using their gut feeling. That's what we're trying to avoid. It's a big industry. So again, I'm not selling 1000 minds in this discussion. We're one of a large number of other products, and this is from the Wikipedia page. And they all differ by the methods that they use, but there's a range of choice. It's a significant industry, is what I'm trying to indicate here. So 1000 Minds, if we've got time, I'll give you a quick demo. Franz Ombler and I, as I discussed earlier, we invented it way back at the start. But now we're a team of 9 people, spread half in New Zealand, 2 in Spain, and 3 in America, working together as a team, helping people make decisions and also do conjoint analysis, and it's augmented with AI. So yeah, that's the package overall. The PAPRIKA method is what we invented way back in the early 2000s. Franz and I did, and we got patents and won quite a few awards on it. And I'll just give you a quick overview, but if we've got time, I'd like to show you in action. So PAPRIKA is an acronym. Again, there's lots of other information available from our website, and there's scientific articles published. But in essence, what PAPRIKA does is it asks decision makers a whole series of pairwise trade-off questions. So this is an example. This is a screenshot from 1000 Minds. You're being asked to choose between 2 hypothetical, in this case, business projects. So this is a business application. So imagine the one on the left's a business project, and the one on the right's a different business project, and they're both described on 2 criteria, scalability and innovation potential, but they've got different levels of performance. And so the key thing is here that you're being forced to confront a trade-off. So 1000 Minds, the PAPRIKA method, asks a whole series. It might be 25 questions like this, but always choose one thing from 2. That's why this is a pairwise comparison. And there's a trade-off. So if you pay close attention here, if you focus on scalability, even though low scalability is, not amazing, but not scalable is even worse. So with all else being equal, the one on the right would be better with respect to scalability. But because we've paired it up with another criterion in the trade-off that we're being asked to consider, moderate innovation is better than low innovation. So we're being asked to consider, how much more or less important is scalability to us than innovation potential. So all the decision maker has to do is choose either the left, the right, or say that they're equal. Do this a number of times, and by answering these questions, this is the PAPRIKA method, they reveal the relative importance of their criteria, and then using linear programming methods in the software deduces what must be the weights or the relative importance on the various criteria. And if we've got time, I'll give you a really fast demo, show you the software, and it's doing this all in real time. It's super dynamic, super fast, not a hard process at all. But the reason this is what most people find quite acceptable is there's no easier decision in the world than choosing one thing from 2, either left or right, where the 2 things are differentiated on just 2 characteristics at once, not on 3 characteristics, not on 4. So this is a simple question, but you have to answer a few of them. Now, in contrast, other methods, in particular the AHP method, which is an acronym as well, tend to ask questions that involve rating scales. So here's an example. So same example really, we're worrying about scalability versus innovation potential, but this method, not used by 1000 Minds, but used by our competitors, would ask the user, on a scale, you can see it here, ranging from 1 to 9, where scalability is more important, or 1 to 9, where innovation is more important, how much more important or less important is one thing from another? So these are known as ratio scales. So most people really struggle with, expressing. So maybe they think scalability is more important. They can answer that question, but is it 3? Is it on a 3 on the scale? Is it a 5 on the scale? Is it a 7 on the scale? That's a much harder decision. So you've got to think about the ratio of importance, or it might be the other way around. It's a difficult thing compared to just going, well, I can think about this alternative, I can think about that alternative. I either like the one on the left, I like the one on the right, or they're equal. It's no different from, would you like a red wine with dinner or a white wine with dinner? Or as I would answer, I'll have both. Thank you very much. So that's the essence of the difference, really. Lots of things we could talk about in terms of our clients, but we've had some great success both internationally, but also within our own country, obviously. Oh, and I thought I'd end with a picture of me. That's when I'm not doing 1000 minds. I like to surf. That's me on a stand-up paddleboard.
That's
um,
perfect. Yeah.
and summertime, by the way, not in wintertime, which is what it
Oh,
is at the moment.
yes. So it would be terrible
Sorry.
even
Yeah.
in the wetsuit, right? Surfing in winter would be too cold, even in the
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Do we have time for me to show you the software in action? Just real fast, demonstrate a Paprika. Would that be of interest?
Yes, yes, definitely. Let me just add, since you have shown a list of logos, actually, the first time I used Paprika
Hmm.
was 1000 Minds was in 2018.
Right.
So, yeah, so I've been the user,
Yeah,
uh,
you're a great.
user since, yeah, 7 years ago already.
No,
It's,
that's great. Yeah, no, and it gives me so much pleasure, just different people from all around the world. And again, thanks to the internet, we can all live in different parts, but we can communicate and interact.
yes,
Um, so, so here I am. I've logged into 1000 minds. It was open anyway, and here's my account. This is me. We organize things into projects. Um, so I created a project for this conversation that we're having, and we could build a new project from scratch, of course. And if we did, and again, only if there's, you might be interested at the end, we've got an AI assistant that helps people do that, right? So it helps people build up what their criteria are and think about their alternatives. But I thought it might be more useful if we just sort of jump into one that's already built in the interest of time. It's a bit like a cooking show. If I sort of have the cake in the oven and take it out and ice it, we can talk about the icing rather than the making of the cake. Um, I thought perhaps with your background, Jiri, you might be interested in using a tool like 1000 minds and Paprika to prioritize IT development projects.
yes,
That might be
yes.
interesting application. Or another one might be, I mean, you choose if you've got a preference. Maybe there are AI startups that a VC or something wants to invest in. I don't know.
But
Um,
but I must say that Paprika is useful for many other things. Like I can imagine using it to deciding for a training program and a
yeah,
diet, picking
absolutely.
it's many different things.
Yep. So we've got a whole library of examples to help people get started here in lots of different areas. Um, from energy through to capital expenditure decision making. Absolutely. And as I said, we could create things um, from AI to depending on what anyone's application. If there's nothing here that appeals, but I thought, just why don't we grab one of those two that I showed you before? Are you more interested in perhaps prioritizing IT development projects or investing in AI startups? I mean, you choose. What would you like more?
Prioritization of IT dev projects.
Yep. Okay. Great. Thanks. So again, this is just out of our examples library. It just makes it easier and faster. So here I'm open the model, and we're at the overview page, and there's examples of criteria and projects here. But really, in essence, make this a little bit larger. We're really just working down the left-hand side. We're setting up the project, which involves specifying the criteria, and in this case, specifying some development projects. And our objective is going to be, we're going to try and prioritize these IT projects, rank order them, but maybe also think about their resource implications of allocating resources. So here are the criteria, which, we just type in ourselves, just enter them, type whatever the things are and specify different levels and stuff, or let the AI do this, which is what I would have done to create this in the first place. So let's not focus on what the criteria are here, but they make common sense, I think, for prioritizing development projects. Like, what's the strategic alignment of the project? And there are 3 levels, from low, medium, and high. I don't know, the expertise of our development team. What's going to be the customer impact? We're building these development projects because we want to support our customers ultimately. Maybe we care about innovation potential, and maybe another consideration is complexity. So whatever, each particular user will have their own criteria. They can enter them themselves or use AI to do this. Now, in addition to these things, we'll see at the end, we'll bring this in when we're allocating our resource. We might I imagine, at least our company would, we'll worry about the development cost. We're going to do these developments, but they're not all going to cost the same. We'll have maybe some confidence or high or low in these development costs because they're estimates into the future. We'll probably worry about, how long is it going to take to deliver the project because we want to sell it to our customers. And maybe we care about risk of failure. Now, again, we could put other things in here. These are just examples, right? But the question we want to have is ultimately, what's the relative importance of these criteria relative to each other? So we're going to have to work out some weights. And once we've got those weights, we haven't got them yet, but we will soon, we're going to apply them to, in this case, 18 different, and these are just examples, of development IT projects that we might be doing. And you can see them listed down here. And when we enter them, again, I'm not going to enter them now, but I can add as many as I want to. We need to rate each of them according to their performance on the criteria that we've specified. So there are the 5 criteria that I showed you before. So maybe, data analytics platform, is it strategic alignment, low, medium, or high? That was what we had on the criteria page, and so on and so forth. And we can enter the other information as well associated with the cost and the other considerations. Again, this is just randomized, fictitious data for the sake of this example. Now, the big question is, and if I jump to results, this will make it, I think, quite clear. What's the relative importance of those criteria? So at this stage, the software doesn't know how important they are, and it's making them all roughly the same depending on how many levels they've got. So here they all are. There was only a few levels on these last 2 here, but they're all roughly the same. Certainly the first 3 are, and then the last one's split. So instead of that, we're going to use the PAPRIKA method, which I outlined before when I had my slides up. The software is going to ask us as decision makers a series of pairwise ranking questions associated with which of these imaginary IT projects we think is the higher priority. So, you can see on the left, again, it's always 2 criteria at a time from our set of 5. The team expertise required is going to be proficient or novice, and the customer impact is going to be, in this case, high or medium. So the one on the right would be better when it comes to customer impact, because high, having a great impact on our customer is more important.
One. I
Yuri?
will do a few decisions if I can, so we will see what is the best for me.
Yeah, do you want to answer this,
left
please?
one. So
the left one, great.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So because I have been doing this multiple times in the past, strategic alignment.
Yep.
These are equal.
Great.
Okay. So people can now see how quickly it goes. Customer, the right one.
Great.
Yes, because I have learned in my life that sometimes having high impact with boring technology might be better than low impact beings.
Yeah, absolutely.
Complexity. So this is tough. I would say these are equal.
Sure.
Normally, I would prefer low complexity, but I want at least some innovation.
And by the way, this is great doing this individually, but I won't distract you other than to say we could easily enable this with voting. If I create voting here, and I'm not sure if you've seen this feature, Jiri, if I copy this link and send it to everyone on the call, just you and me at this stage, but imagine there was 50 of us on the call, we could all vote independently.
Yes.
Or we could do it in the same room using our smartphones as clickers.
Yes.
And that way we get to vote anonymously without, having to look over our shoulder at what the boss, what Jiri thinks, if I'm the junior programmer. And everyone's vote's recorded, and we can decide which of these preferences, which of these lefts or rights do we prefer. It's a really effective way of getting people involved in a decision. and actually having a bit of fun. So anyway, carry on here. Give me rattle
Okay.
them off. Yep.
The left one, team expertise is super important.
Yep.
Still, the right one, expertise, professional expert. The right one, or no, these are the same. Or the right
That's
one is good too. Yeah.
that's all right. Undo. They're the same.
Yes. Yes. Innovation potential. These are the same. Usually, I don't end up with having many like they are the same, but in this particular,
Okay, when they are, they are. That's how it is.
yes, the left one. Yes. Yes. I like controlling complexity. The right one. I'm always willing to change the strategy.
Yep.
Yeah. There is a great book, Good Strategy, Bad Strategy, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
which goes behind like those concepts of mission, vision, and so on. Actually, business strategy is more like understanding of the reality as it is right now and where it is heading, and what's your position in the future, and
Right.
position yourself in the future. You are building, others are building, and so this is very dynamic. As you change
Mm-hmm.
your understanding of the reality, you can change and you should change your strategy.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Uh, so the same, these are the same. Innovation potential. So the right one, at least once in my life, I will build rockets. um, so mm, the left one, still higher expertise usually beats higher complexity. The left one, the left one. By the way, based on my answers, if I understand Paprika correctly, it chooses only questions that are changing progress and it eliminates
Yes,
options.
that's why it thinks each time we answer a question, it thinks for a moment, eliminates other questions that could be answered but are implied by the answers to the past ones, and just asks a question it doesn't know the answer to. But in the process, we're going through all possible combinations of the criteria two at a time with different levels.
Yes, yes. Now it's the left one.
And don't feel you have to finish these because we can stop and we'll still get some results. But feel
Yeah.
free to go on.
Okay, the left one.
Notice how it's leaping ahead at different speeds sometimes because some questions knock out more questions than others.
Yes,
Yeah,
because they clarify larger space of all potential solutions, right?
right. It's cutting the space. It's cutting the space exactly.
Yes, I would say the right one. Yeah, the left one. Impact is really important.
Yep.
Again, left one. The left one. These are the same. Oh, this is a good question. The right one, maybe. Again, like it's from time to time building rockets, even when I usually don't care that much about like how innovative it is, as long as it helps a lot.
Yep.
Um, the left one. Oh, they're equal. They're equal.
And by the way, for people who are unfamiliar, you only have to do this once, right? Because we're basically training the software. In this
Yes.
case, what Yuri
Yeah.
thinks is important.
And
It's
even
learning.
now, yeah, and
Yeah,
even when I have answered just 82% of questions,
yeah,
I could potentially jump to results already. And I,
we can see it immediately. But the more we go, the more accurate it gets. That's right.
yes, so the left one,
And we're very close. I mean, it won't take many more. Look, we're at 89.
so I think we are very close, maybe three more answers.
Yeah, yeah. It's always fun anticipating, isn't it?
Yes, yes. So these are equal. It's because it's either building rockets or just like doing what you always do, and
Yep.
both are good. The right one, oh, oh, this is a good question. They are equal, but the progress never goes down. It always goes up, right?
Yeah, yeah, yep.
Yeah.
But we're getting the last ones, the trickiest ones. That's why
Yes.
it's slowing down.
Yes.
Yeah,
Now the right one.
the right one. Yep.
Yes.
We're just mopping up the tricky ones.
Yes.
I'd say two more, maybe one more.
Oh, okay. This is also. Uh,
Yeah.
these are equal.
Whoop. 99%.
The right one. Good team can beat high complexity. This
Yep.
is
Great.
learn.
You've done. Finished. Bravo. And now here are the results. So based on how you answered the trade-offs, as reflected by your answers, you're putting most weight on team expertise, and
Yes.
these percentages add to 100, or a weight of total of 1. And least important to you is strategic alignment.
Yes.
Impact and potential and complexity are the same, but customer impact, team expertise, and customer impact are your two most important, and your least is
Yes.
strategic.
By
Does
the
that feel similar to how you feel, or?
Yes, yes. So basically, so the best thing about Flexiana, about my company, is we are a senior-only company. We hire only people who have at least 5 years of professional experience,
Yep.
and 11 years of experience. And this is the best decision I ever made when I started the company, working with people who are already on senior level, because they can lead a
Yep.
meeting, plan a work, interview colleagues, self-organize, and so on.
Yep.
And the customer impact, actually, I would like, if I was putting those percentages, I would put team expertise and customer impact to be very close to each other,
Yes.
because I care a lot about the impact to customers.
Yep.
For the innovation, I'm actually using plenty of things that exist for a very long time. I use databases that exist for decades,
Yep.
programming language that exists for almost 2 decades, and so on.
Yep.
Uh, it's just that they have good impact for customers. So yeah, it very is.
And a common thing, Yuri, too, would be you can go back and review the questions that you answered. So here they are. You can see there's the first one, and there's a tick, the one you chose, and you can look at them and go, you know what, I want to revisit that, or you know what, maybe I was a little bit hasty, or so if you change some of these decisions, of course, the weights will change a bit, and so it's quite common for people to sort of, to redo some questions just to have greater confidence if they're not absolutely certain. And especially you were in a hurry. And the other thing, of course, was they were not your criteria. Like you would work on the criteria to make sure that they made perfect sense to you, that they're the way
Yeah,
you would express them, not the way this was generated by our AI, just for the sake of an example. But
yeah,
yeah, so that's the weights. And there's lots of ways to slice and dice it. And just, again, for the benefit of people who are watching, once you get numbers attached to each criterion reflecting their relative importance, their weight, which is these numbers we saw before, you can then say things, well, look, if that's the weight on team expertise and it's a tiny wee amount on strategic alignment, the ratio of 52.4 to 1.4 is 38.5 times more important.
Yeah.
That's the relevance of having weights. We can do things like that, and we can graph it in lots of different ways, and we can look at the marginal effects, etc., etc. But remember, as much fun as that is, and of course we could refine it, we're doing this because we want to get a ranking of our 18 projects that we're considering. So here they are. Data analytics is at the top. Of course, this is driven by how each of these alternatives was rated on each of the criteria, and we didn't do that ourselves. In fact, we just did this with the AI assistant here to get started. But normally what you'd do is, you'd have your team looking at each alternative and deciding quite carefully, here it is, data analytics platform, how would we rate it on each criterion? And is there other information we'd want to put here? Maybe we'd put an image, but we'd make sure of that. And if we trusted these results, there's number one. And so the score of 95.2, this is a weighted average, linear weighted average sum model. It's literally just taking the weight for high, for expert, for high, adding those 5 numbers. I'll show you again, just so everyone's clear. Taking the numbers from here, those are the weights that I was showing you graphically, but there's the weights on each of the different levels. We add whatever the weights were, and that gives us a total score out of 100. So out of 100, that one there is getting close to perfect score, 95, but it's not perfect. And way down the bottom, Internet of Things, device management,
Yes.
not doing well on the criteria, gets a much lower score. And if we weren't constrained by cost, of course, we just go, well, let's work down this list. Here's first, second, third. But we entered these other things that we said were important too. So, we probably care about the development costs. We probably care about how confident we are in our budgeting that we've used to estimate those numbers. These other things, I put them in, again, just as examples, but whatever they are. So, and here's a classic example. Look, the third best one, getting a score of almost 80 out of 100, is only 357,000 development. It's almost a third as expensive as the one that got the high score. So maybe, we'd rather do some of these cheap things rather than some of these expensive things. And so the final thing that we really try and encourage people to look at is plotting this information in what's called a value for money chart. And here it is here. So on the horizontal axis, there's the cost, and the vertical, there's the score out of 100. We could show other things like maybe the size of the bubble tells us how confident we are in the cost estimates. Maybe the color is the risk of failure. And so how does that work down here? There's a high risk of failure. There's a medium or a low. So we want a low risk of failure. So, we're looking for whatever that color there is. The best value for money is in the top left corner here, because those are the ones with the maximum benefit for the lowest development cost. Anything down here in this quadrant here is not very good and expensive. So, and this is what's known as efficiency frontier, of course.
Good improvement you have there to have the efficiency frontier.
That's right.
Because
that's right.
Basically it shows like, okay, all other projects can be completely discarded from your decision making.
That's right.
The best options, and based on your risk appetite, you will choose one of those.
Yeah. Well, you're right, absolutely right. Provided you're not paying attention to the bubble size, and you're not paying attention to these, and which is reasonable too. Like if you're just focusing on the 2 axes there,
yes,
and the efficiency frontier is where you want to be. Like, why would you choose virtual reality training, which is not very good? It's getting a low score out of 100. It's very expensive. When there's, say, e-commerce integration, it's much better, and it's a fraction of the cost. And we could choose, we could zoom in. Why don't we just do these ones? There's the best value for money. And now we can start to make choices. So maybe we choose that one. And so if I choose that, I can select it, and maybe I can take things off the table, reject a few things, and we're just really walking through a supermarket deciding what we're putting into our shopping trolley for our whatever we've got in our wallets that we can afford to buy. And that's really what allocating resources is. And of course the efficiency frontier is changing. And then down here, it's keeping track of the choices we've made and we can also say something about the budget. So if we bought them all, it would cost us, what's that, $10 million. Maybe our budget is 2,000. So we've spent, the ones we selected, 500,000. We've got 1.5 million left.
Okay.
When we're allocating a resource. So not every application's like that. So you can, some applications you're thinking about choosing someone for a job, for example. Everyone's going to get the same salary, so you're not allocating a resource. But in lots of examples, you are allocating a resource, which is really important for decision making, isn't it? And when you
Yeah.
know that in Flexiana, for sure.
Yes. And how the implementation usually looks like when you work with some new, let's say, institution or individual on let's say quite big decision making process like budgeting millions of dollars.
Yep. Well, oftentimes there'll be a team working on the problem, and so it's a great common practice to have different people in the team doing different parts of the problem. So the accountants can put their effort into working on the budget, the costing application bits, and then there'll be other people who are really good at looking at all the different projects and, shall we say, rating them on the criteria, who have that expertise to look at any one of these things and say, well, how does that fit with our alignment? And probably that's a senior management, a group of people making those decisions. And then, as I showed you before, when we were working out the weights, that can be a large group voting on the decisions to get maximum engagement. And it's a big part of what 1000 Minds is trying to do, and that's where our name comes from. We're trying to get 1000 minds involved in the process and working together, contributing their expertise, but not one mind dominating. It's not the CEO. It's depending on people's expertise and fully recognizing it's a natural thing in human interaction to have different opinions, to have different subjective preferences, and to have different goals. And especially when you're doing those trade-offs that give the weights, it's very common for people to disagree. It's in fact it's a great thing when people disagree, because now it's a good chance to understand why. If we come from different backgrounds, say in an organization, you've got the marketing team who think very different from the IT development team.
Yes.
But it's great when they can understand why.
Actually, what I would say, instead of voting, what might be great is to get stakeholders from different roles to one room and get them to reach consensus over choices, because all of them will be able to explain why they vote the way they vote. Because, for example, some engineer might have some engineering insights, and a lawyer might have legal insights, and they might be looking at the same problem but see different aspects, right?
Well, Yuri, that's exactly what happens. So when there's a voting disagreement, and we didn't do it, but I could easily, if I sent you that link, and everyone voted, so just you and I voted. If you voted for the one on the right, and I voted for the one on the left, we would then have a discussion to reach that consensus that you talked about.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I want to know why you think differently, or what if half the room goes for the one on the left and the other half goes for the one on the right. It's really great to have a discussion. And if you remember, consensus does not mean unanimity. Consensus means we're prepared to live with a difference. Like, we accept there's a difference, and we can move on. And in my experience, human beings are very good at doing that. Actually, they feel that their voice has been heard, and they're happy to accept other people's viewpoints once they've understood other people's viewpoints, and they themselves feel that their viewpoint has been respected as well.
Yes.
Hey, Yuri, can I just ask you, have you tried 1000 Minds with the AI assistant for a decision?
No, not yet.
Would you like to?
In the results, project selection, is a
Yep.
feature
Yep.
I have not seen yet.
Yep.
So efficient frontier,
Yep.
I know about efficient frontier from modern portfolio management theory,
Yeah.
which is
That's
a little bit different field, but it's great to see.
It's the same idea. It's exactly the same idea.
Yes, yes,
Because what you're trying to do here at this point, think of it this way: in the IT development space, you're trying to pick a portfolio of development projects from to set, to be done given your available resources. It's a portfolio problem, just like in finance.
exactly.
But
So
can I just take 2 minutes of your time and show you the AI assistant? Given we were talking about AI at the start, I think you'll find this fascinating. And I'm going to get you to think of a. So we're just setting it up now. It's real fast. Let's use PAPRIKA. So hi Yuri. What sort
so
of decision are you
so
interested in making? Let's give it a prompt.
so I wonder, for example, what marketing strategy to use. I think
Yep.
strategy to use to promote AI-enabled business intelligence platform for CTOs and IT managers.
AI enabled what was it? Business platform.
Intelligence,
Business.
intelligence,
Yep.
intelligence platform
Yep.
for
For
CTOs and IT managers.
ETOs. Yep.
Chief
And
Technical Officers, CTOs, not ITOs, CTOs,
yep. Sorry, CTOs.
and IT managers.
Yep. Sure. I'll just correct my spelling mistake in a minute. Great. Let's see what it comes back with. So now it's rushing over, knocking on Sam Altman's door. I'll make it a bit bigger so you can read it. Well, I think it's understood us. Let's agree with that. So now what it's doing is creating criteria to choose those strategies, and perhaps it'll offer us strategies. Let's see. So when choosing between those strategies that you're interested in, it recommends that these might be the sort of criteria that you would think would be important for choosing between them. So I don't know this area very well, and
I
we can
would
edit.
start, brand alignment. I would discard brand alignment most
Yep,
likely, because it's on brand no matter the channel or strategy we will use.
yep,
I would also, as you know, I said, like, even in the previous decision making, team expertise. So let's say marketing team expertise
mm-hmm.
would play a role, because if you
Okay,
know, or if you have a marketer who is great at content marketing, for example, it's a shame not to use this.
yep. So we can add those in ourselves. We can add them in later on too.
Yeah.
Um, so we just edited that ourselves. What about these other ones? Are they reasonable? I mean, let's not get.
Yes.
I mean,
The rest,
these are just suggestions from the AI. This is, by the way, using GPT 4 O, I think 3.0 probably.
so it will get only better with newer models.
That's right. I mean, that's how it feels. So when we're ready, we don't have to do it now, but when we're ready, if we confirm, now what it's also going to do is for each of the criteria that it's suggested, it's going to offer us what it thinks are levels of performance that we'd use to
Yeah.
assess our
Yes.
marketing. And so
Yes.
we can, and the key thing here is we want to make sure that the ranking's right, that the highest ranked is down here and the lowest ranked is up there. That looks about right. We can change them or reverse it, but here it goes. And now it's just doing the next one, engagement level. So it's making, so again, I'll just rush through these. Of course, we can edit them. We can ask for new ones. The implementation, yep, so that looks right. Low complexity would be better than high complexity in terms of implementation. Time, yep, immediate's better than having to wait. Now, I wonder how it interprets the expertise. Okay, so it's generating some level.
I wonder, is it possible that I will end up, like, for example, preferring short term impact over immediate and long term impact? Like,
Ah,
it goes
yeah,
from the worst to best, but now, like, is it possible to prefer the middle?
yeah, absolutely. So I could have changed it. We can change it later on. We'll do that in a minute. Great. Let's So now if we're feeling okay, do we feel, let's see if it's going to suggest us some strategies or whether it'll just give us generic ones. Let's see how good the AI is. So now it's going to offer us some alternatives. I know you've got your own, but this, again, this is just to help people get started, right? Oh, no, there it is. It's offering real things. So here are examples of strategies that we can either confirm or add our own. We can add more if we want to. A social
But
media campaign, webinar series. I don't know if this is what you're thinking of.
I would add business partners, affiliate marketing.
Well, we can add more. So let's just skip for now.
Yes,
I'll show you just in the interest of time here. I know you're on a time limit. So now it's very quickly taking each of these examples
yes,
of strategies and it's rating them on the criteria that we said are important. We can override it, of course. But again, just let's flip through this because I want to close the circle so you can see how this all fits in what I showed before. I'll just rush through these and then you'll see why in a minute. Just trust me here. Here's another one, and it only offered us 5, but we can ask for more if we want to. I don't know. I'm going to give Sam a wee thumbs up. He needs a bit of help and comfort. So again, just so you can see, so what it's done is the AI assistant built for us the model that I showed you before in my earlier demonstration, and
yes,
there are the criteria that it had. Of course, we can anytime we can add our own. Of course, we can add as many as we want up to. I think it's 10 or 15 or maybe even more than that these days. And likewise, let me just clean that up real fast. I just want to show you that the alternatives because we saw those before, and there are the strategies. And so that there are the strategies they suggested. Now, if we wanted to, let's add just for fun another, let's say another 20.
oh,
So now it's going to add 20 strategies and rate them all on those criteria for us. Now, again, this isn't to stop us adding our own criteria, right? This is just a starting point for people. It's not supposed to stop us as, decision makers running it. But here are the 25 strategies that it's come up with.
right,
Again, just using the AI to suggest these things. But of course, to close the circle, the question is, well, what are the weights on these things? Well, at this stage, they're all the same.
yeah,
You guessed. So now we make some trade-offs. And see that that's why to me it's interesting thinking about. I mean, AI can take us a long way, but it doesn't know how Yuri or how Paul feels about the trade-offs between whatever the criteria are for our decision. It can't read our minds at this stage. Maybe one day it will, but
yes,
AI can't do that. So this is a highly personal thing. I'd answer this probably quite differently for my company than you'd answer this for your one.
yes, yes,
And so again, so think about like to package it all together, the AI made some great suggestions to get us started, but now we're training the software by actually telling, in this case, how we feel about the relative importance of the criteria that we had suggested to us. So it's a nice merging of AI, I think, and plus human
yes,
expertise, and that's the whole point. And again, you go through the whole thing here. Ultimately, we'll get the selection, just like I showed you before for the IT development projects.
yes, yes. So, and then, yeah, I would also get an efficient frontier and
Yeah,
budget things,
frontier. Yep.
techniques that are on efficient frontier. Um, you convinced me I actually should do this for one of our or two of our products.
Please, please do. And actually, I mean, think about it. I didn't focus it on my discussion, but remember, a big part of what 1000minds does is conjoint analysis, which is all about finding what your customers want from the products that you're selling them.
Yes,
It's a very big part of market research.
yes. This is why in the previous one, I stressed impact. Like you can't sell anything that people
Yeah,
don't care about.
that's right. No, that's right. If no one wants what you're making, what's the point?
Yes, yes,
But just to illustrate that, here's all the examples of, you'd use each of these things here to find out what airlines, services business travelers look for, or, luxury goods. What are the preferences for luxury goods, or, designing a car, it's all the same to a tool like this, because it's just discovering, the trade-offs people are willing to make when they consider, say, an EV, the trade-off between battery capacity, charging speed, etc., price
Yeah.
range. You
Yes.
see the types of products you build. So conjoint analysis, which I really didn't focus on very much, but that's a huge area in market research, and it's
Yeah.
obviously very important. Yeah.
Now, the next question is, where can people learn more about what you're up to, and how can people follow you? And
Thank you very much. Well, our website, please, I'd love people to go to 1000 minds and just, just grab this up. Sorry, I'm stumbling here. Got two screens. I'll do it real fast.
yeah,
So here's the site, and it'd be great. Anyone can grab a trial. Just click on this and start for free and have a play. Just exactly what I was doing. Just straight into it, but really it's just here's our website. Here's what we do. 1000minds.com is the address. And again, lots of opportunities to use the tool for a trial period and talk to us, and plenty of resources. Hopefully some of the things I talked about have stimulated people's interest, and they might want to learn more about multi-criteria decision analysis. Here's a very big resource that explains it all. Here's conjoint analysis, a whole bunch of other things, and plenty of and lots of other things that are available for free on our website. Like there's some webinars and tutorials and things like that. Lots of articles to read and stuff like that. But if people are interested, please have a play with 1000 Minds and use the AI assistant. Use it for an application that people themselves are interested. That's the best way to learn things, as you know, Jiri.
yes, exactly. Learning by doing. This works.
It's much better than sitting in the classroom, right?
Yes. All right. I would love to thank you. It was perfect and a great presentation. And
Thanks.
I hope we can do some other interview together in the future.
Well, it's always, I love interacting with you, Jiri. So thank you very much
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
and for your friendship. Thank you.